We often think about poker, in terms of who holds the strongest hand. Pretty simple, right?
Right.
But this deep dive into a fascinating poker training session, well, it reveals a critical twist.
Uh-huh.
The moment you add more player to the table,
hmm
everything changes. The value of any individual hand shifts dramatically.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That so-called unbeatable hand suddenly faces a much tougher landscape.
Right.
Precisely. It moves way beyond just simple hand rankings. The core of this analysis is multi-way equity,
Multiway equity.
which at its heart is about understanding your chances of winning not just against one opponent, but against several.
Ah, okay.
And that introduces a level of strategic depth that's, frankly, often underestimated.
Yeah, I can see that. And the training we're looking at isn't just about the cards themselves, is it?
No, not at all. It covers, well, everything from the practicalities of setting up your study tools, like the software.
Right, the tech stuff.
Exactly. All the way to really advanced strategic concepts for these multiplayer scenarios.
So our mission today, and this is for everyone listening, whether you've ever played poker or not,
Yeah.
is to kind of extract those key principles.
Yeah.
How do you navigate situations with multiple competing factors?
Yeah.
Think about probability, assessing risk, and also that often surprising difference between how strong something looks and its actual likelihood of success. Okay, let's unpack this.
What's interesting right off the bat is how the training begins. It highlights some very real-world hurdles.
Oh, like what?
Well, the person in the video, they encountered technical difficulties, issues with Poker Tracker.
Ah, the tracking software.
Yeah, and maybe CPU limitations, even mismatches in like PostgreSQL versions,
Right.
the database stuff.
Right, right. The setup nightmares. It's actually a great reminder, isn't it?
Totally.
That even with the best intentions to learn something new, like a skill or a complex strategy, sometimes the first roadblocks are just getting your environment sorted.
Exactly. They even mentioned a delay in receiving a strategy book, something about delivery issues in Estonia.
No way. See, it really underscores how, a stable foundation is just essential for effective learning in anything, really.
Absolutely.
So, okay, with those initial setup challenges, which they address in the video, let's dive into the core stuff, the strategy,
Let's do it.
how these multi-way scenarios just dramatically alter the value of hands we think we know.
Right. And the training moves into this thing called the equity guessing game,
Okay.
where the instructor presents these four-player hand scenarios and prompts the student to estimate the win percentages, the equity, using logic.
Ah, okay, like a test.
Kind of, which leads us to the first example hand, ace-10 suited.
Case 10 suited.
Yeah.
Okay, now to many people, myself included sometimes, that sounds like a pretty powerful starting hand, right?
Cool, absolutely. It's definitely a strong contender. In a heads-up match, one-on-one, for sure. But
Yeah.
what's fascinating is the significant drop in its value when you're facing three other players.
How significant?
The training points out that in certain multi-way situations, its equity can actually fall below 10%.
Wow. Below 10%. Seriously?
Seriously, it highlights this crucial insight. In complex systems, like a poker hand with multiple players, the presence of those other players, those agents, can fundamentally change the expected outcome for any single one.
Below 10%. That's just,
right.
it's a massive decrease. What causes such a significant drop? Is it just bad luck?
Well, it's not just luck. Several factors come into play. With more opponents, the likelihood of someone holding blockers.
Blockers, meaning cards you need.
Exactly. Cards that reduce your chances of completing a strong hand, that likelihood goes up considerably.
Okay.
There's also a greater chance of suit conflicts where, multiple players might have suited cards in the same suit as you.
Right, diluting your flush draw.
Precisely, diluting the value of your own flush draw. And, well, simply put, more opponents just mean more opportunities for someone else to have a better made hand already or a stronger drawing hand.
Makes sense.
So while ace-10 has that nice high card value, its ability to improve to the absolute best hand, the nuts, it's substantially reduced in a crowded pot.
It really illustrates how the context, just the number of opponents, fundamentally reshapes the value. What you thought was strong isn't quite so strong anymore.
Exactly.
Now, the next hand they looked at, 10-8 suited. This one was quite surprising, you mentioned.
It often is, yeah. 10-8 suited, it tends to fly under the radar a bit compared to those, big ace-king type hands.
Right, doesn't sound as flashy.
Not at all. Yet, in these multi-way scenarios, it consistently showed much better performance, often showing equity in the 30% range, sometimes even higher.
Higher, wow. That's a significant jump compared to the ace-10 we just talked about.
Yeah, it really is.
So what makes 10-8 suited so, well, valuable and maybe underestimated in these bigger pots?
Okay, the key lies in its playability and its flexibility,
Playability, meaning,
meaning how well it interacts with different kinds of flocks. See, 10 and 8 being connected and suited, it means it can form straights in multiple ways, high straights, middle ones, even low ones.
okay, more potential connections.
Exactly. Plus the flush potential, obviously. It just offers a wider range of avenues for improvement.
Unlike the ace-10.
Well, compare it to ace-10, which primarily relies on hitting a high pair or maybe a strong high draw like the nut flush draw. 10-8 suited has this more diverse set of potential winning outcomes, especially against multiple opponents who could have anything.
Interesting.
It's a prime example of how in multi-way situations, the potential for your hand to evolve and connect with the board in different ways that can be more valuable than just its initial perceived strength.
So it's not just about having the highest cards at the start. It's about having a hand that can, dance with whatever the community cards throw out there.
You got it. That flexibility is key.
Okay, this naturally leads into the concept of outs then. Can you break down what those are?
Certainly, yeah. Outs are simply the cards remaining in the deck that, if they come on the turn or river, would improve your current hand, hopefully to a hand that's likely to win.
Okay, simple enough.
For instance, if you hold 2 hearts, and there are 2 hearts on the board already.
You're drawing to a flush.
Right. You have 9 remaining hearts in the deck that would complete your flush. Those 9 cards are your outs.
9 outs. Got it.
And following this, the training introduces the rule of 4. Have you heard of this?
Vaguely, yeah. Isn't it a quick math shortcut?
Exactly. It's a quick estimation tool for your win percentage, specifically on the flop. You take the number of your outs, like our 9 flush outs, and you multiply it by 4. To get a rough percentage chance of hitting one of those outs by the time the river card comes. So 9 times 4 is 36. Roughly 36%.
That sounds pretty useful. A handy mental shortcut, especially when you're under pressure.
It is.
But I imagine the reality is probably a bit more nuanced. It can't be that simple all the time.
You're absolutely right. It's not quite that simple. The training really emphasizes the importance of making realistic adjustments to this rule.
Adjustments like what?
Well, you need to consider overlapping outs.
Overlapping.
Yeah, where a card that improves your hand might also improve an opponent's hand to be even better than yours. Like, maybe your straight card also makes their flush.
Ah, damn. Okay. That's a negative out, essentially.
Kind of, yeah.
Huh?
Or it discounts the value of that out. Additionally, you need to think about blocked outs.
Blocked, meaning cards someone else might hold.
Exactly. Cards that could improve your hand, but they're unlikely to actually be in the deck because you have good reason to suspect an opponent already holds one or more of them.
Okay, that makes sense. Could you maybe give an example of how these adjustments might work in practice?
Sure. Let's take that 9-out flush draw again.
Okay, 36% rough equity with a rule of 4.
Right. But let's say the board also has a high card, like an ace, that doesn't help your flush at all. But it could easily give another player who called preflop with an ace a really strong pair. Top pair.
Right, so your flush might not even be good if you hit it, if the board pairs or something. Or they just have a better hand already.
Well, it means even if you hit your flush, maybe they hit 2 pair trips with that ace. Or maybe that ace on board means one of your heart outs, the ace of hearts, isn't really an out for you because hitting it pairs the board and could give someone a full house.
Ah, okay, so you have to discount certain outs sometimes.
Exactly. You have to account for those potential negative impacts or situations where your outs aren't as clean as they seem. Your actual real equity might be lower than that initial 36%.
That makes perfect sense. It's not just your hand in a vacuum. It's your hand, the board, and what your opponents might credibly have.
Precisely.
Now, the training also went into some pretty tough scenarios. Specifically, when a hand that looks strong is actually drawing dead. What does that term mean?
Drawing dead. Yeah, that's a critical concept in poker, and a painful one sometimes.
I bet.
It means that even if all the cards you hope to see come, your miracle outs arrive on the turn and river, your hand will still not be the winning hand. You have 0 chance against what your opponent currently holds.
0 chance. Wow.
Yeah, and the training illustrates this with a really stark example. Ace-10 suited.
Our old friend ace-10.
Yeah, versus a hand like 10-4 of spades. Okay.
10-4 suited. Seems weak.
Usually. But imagine the board comes down entirely spades. All spades, a monotone board.
Okay, so everyone sees the flush possibility.
Right. Now the ace-10, let's say it's the ace-10 of clubs, but it has the 10 of spades. So it has top pair with the 10, and maybe a good kicker with the ace.
So ace-10 looks pretty good there. Top pair, top kicker.
In most situations, yeah, you'd feel pretty good. But on this all-spade board, the player holding the 10-4 of spades already has a flush, a 10 high flush.
Okay.
Now think about it. Any spade that might come to give the ace-10 player, say, an ace-high flush, would simultaneously improve the 10-4 player's already made 10 high flush to an even higher flush.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So in this specific spot, unless the board does something crazy like pair in a way that gives ace-10 a full house, which is very unlikely,
Right.
the ace-10 player has absolutely 0% chance of winning the hand. They are drawing completely dead.
0% equity. Even with top pair, top kicker.
Exactly. It powerfully demonstrates that even hands that look strong on the surface can be rendered totally worthless by the specific context, the board texture, and what your opponent likely holds.
That's a tough lesson.
Oh.
Ouch.
Yeah.
It really highlights the need to not just focus on your own hand's potential, but also be acutely aware of the made hands out there, the potential draws your opponents have, and just the board itself, what's possible on that board.
Absolute critical.
And knowing when to just
Give up.
when to fold in those situations, that seems crucial.
Yeah.
Not just in poker, right?
Yeah.
But in any time you've invested resources and, well, new information shows the path to success is just gone.
Exactly. It's about cutting your losses effectively. Knowing when an investment, whether it's chips or time or money, is just sunk.
Yeah.
And the training, it does briefly touch on even more intricate scenarios, things involving full houses, split pots.
Oh, yeah, the really complex stuff.
Right, further illustrating the depth of strategic understanding you need at higher levels. You know, understanding the tiebreaker rules for full houses or flushes. It's all part of a complete strategic framework.
It's clearly a much, much more nuanced game than just knowing, flush beats a straight.
Oh, absolutely. Miles deeper.
Now, there was an interesting point raised in the training you mentioned about calculation versus intuition, math versus gut feeling.
Yes, exactly. It touched on a kind of philosophical debate that honestly many experienced players grapple with.
How so?
Well, in the video, the student actually made an intuitive guess about a hand's equity that turned out to be slightly more accurate than their initial mathematical calculation, which was based purely on counting the outs.
Whoa, really? That's intriguing. So does that mean we should just ditch the math and rely on our gut feelings?
No, not necessarily. Not at all. What this example really underscores, I think, is that intuition, when it's honed by experience and a solid grasp of the underlying probabilities and game dynamics, it can evolve into a very valuable asset.
Okay.
Particularly in those real-time moments at the table where doing complex calculations just isn't feasible.
Right. You don't have a spreadsheet in front of you.
Exactly. It suggests that through repeated exposure, through logical reasoning over time, you can develop this almost subconscious recognition of patterns and probabilities. Your gut gets smarter.
So it's more like a synergy then. Understanding the numbers helps build that intuition, and experience helps you apply it quickly.
That's a great way to put it. A synergy between understanding the math and developing a feel for the game.
Okay. Now, broadening our perspective a bit, looking beyond the poker table, what are some of the key insights from this whole deep dive into multi-way equity that might have relevance, elsewhere in life?
That's a great question. I think a really significant takeaway is the caution against overvaluing what seem like strong premium assets or positions, especially when you're facing multiple competitors or factors.
Like the ace-10 suited example.
Exactly like the ace-10. Just as it loses considerable value in multi-way poker, in numerous real-world scenarios, business, investing, even project management, a seemingly dominant position can be way less secure when you're interacting with multiple other entities and all these unpredictable factors.
Yeah, things you can't control.
Right. And the training also points out that even in poker situations that look pretty favorable, multi-way, your actual equity often hovers around maybe the 40% mark.
Only 40%,
They did.
even when you feel good about it.
Often, yeah, because there's just this sheer volume of unknown variables, all those hidden cards your opponents hold. And it just emphasizes the inherent uncertainty in so many complex situations. And importantly, the need to not become overconfident, even when the initial signs look really positive.
That's a really valuable reminder about the limitations of our own perspective, right? And how unseen elements can just swing the final result.
Definitely.
Okay, so To kind of recap then, what are the main principles we've pulled out from this deep dive today?
Well, I think first we saw how just having multiple players fundamentally changes the value of any individual hand or asset. Context is critical.
Okay, context.
Second, we explored that idea of hand playability, how sometimes flexibility and having multiple ways to succeed can be more valuable than just raw starting power, especially with many players involved.
Right, the 10-8 suited thing.
Exactly. Then we touched on the basics of equity estimation using outs, the rule of four, but also stressed the need for those realistic adjustments, discounting outs, considering blockers.
Yeah, nuance.
Then there was the crucial skill of identifying when you're basically drawing dead, regardless of how strong your hand might look on the surface, knowing when to fold.
Cutting losses, yeah.
And finally, we considered that interplay, that synergy between logical analysis, the math, and cultivating an informed intuition through experience.
That covers it well. So, as you listening go about your day, maybe consider this. How can you apply these ideas, these principles of evaluating probabilities, looking at potential outcome? How can you apply that to situations in your own life or, your field of expertise? Think about times when something might look like a guaranteed success, a sure thing. But maybe the presence of multiple competing factors or hidden information could significantly change your odds.
Yeah.
Or, conversely, maybe think about scenarios where a less obvious option, something maybe less flashy, might actually offer surprising advantages because it's more adaptable, more flexible, has more ways to win down the line.
Good food for thought.
It's really about looking beyond that surface level assessment, isn't it? Trying to understand the underlying dynamics at play. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
We're going to have better luck with that one. It should be very similar to Poker Tracker, but different.
Okay, I will take a note and I will try it afterwards. The thing is, the issues I'm facing, they might disappear with a new computer. So that's also possible, but I haven't received a new computer until now, so I can try. Until then, we have to do something else. Then look at my hands, or I could send you my hands maybe on...
Yes, that's also an option, right? You can send me your hands and I can screen share and we can review.
Yeah, if I send you the files with my hands on, let's say, Sunday, you could pick a couple of hands you find interesting and we could go through them, That would be a solution until I find a way around the restrictions that I'm facing right now.
Funny thing is, I also had some problems. I had problems on Amazon, actually. So firstly, the good news. Now you could order on Amazon France or Germany also your physical copy. And that would arrive much quicker. I think it's like 1 week. But somehow none of the Amazon sites, even none of the Amazons, not the .com, not Germany, not France, not UK, none of the sites, they couldn't even allow me to order an ebook. So I was like, okay, if you don't ship to Estonia from Germany or US at the moment, maybe I can get an ebook, right? It's ebook. What does it matter where I'm? But it just kept saying like the same message, like check your location or something. And it was very strange. So I unfortunately was unable to read the 5 pages that I hoped for this time, but I will keep trying. Maybe I have to get a VPN, get to Amazon, think of some weird way, right? So maybe if I log into it from USBN, then I can get the ebook. But that was a bit sad also. The Amazon just didn't like Estonia, as it seemed.
Did you never order anything from Amazon?
Yeah, now that I think of it, I don't remember. It's not very popular here in Estonia. That is true. We do use other services mostly. But maybe I did order very long time ago. I don't know.
Okay, well, I send you.
I will try again this week. I will figure it out.
If not, I can send you a copy. That would also be a solution if I send you a copy.
Yeah, but I hope, I want to order from Amazon and then leave you a review there and all these things, right? So I will try more this week, right? And then we'll see. I will try with VP or something.
The issue is if they don't want to deliver to Estonia, then there's nothing you can do. But
ebook, why should it matter with ebook, right? That's so strange.
Yeah, I really don't.
It looked a little bit like a bug, so I also will message them maybe like I want to get an ebook. I'm from Estonia and stuff like that. Well, I
Yeah.
don't want an ebook, right? I want the real book, but I would have been happy with an ebook also because for this lesson as well. But I'll try to figure something out. I'm hopeful at this point. It's just that it's like this for now.
I'm sure we'll find a solution and with both of the problems, but it might take some time until we do. But I'll think about it, and in the worst case scenario, I'll just order the book and then I ship it to you. That should be possible.
Yeah, I don't even know other platforms to publish your books. Have you thought about that? I think Amazon is the best, right?
Yeah, well, it's not so easy to publish a book, and it's already a lot of work to publish it on Amazon. Because the English version was rejected twice because of the barcode that they print on the book. And because of that, they make the issues, and twice the book was rejected. So I had to change the stuff with the graphics, with the design of the book, and then it went through, but it was rejected twice. So it's not an easy process. If there's the slightest issue, millimeter or anything, even if you can't see it, but the computer sees it, well, then it gets just rejected. So it must be perfect. If not, they won't accept it. So it's very hard. It's already very hard to self-publish a book on Amazon, and I know of no other alternative. So it would be hard for me to find anything else. But I think about it, and if you cannot manage, which I understand, it's not your mistake, then I will just order the book and send it to you, if that's possible. Or
Next week, okay.
Or send you a digital copy of it, But there must be alternatives. I mean, there should be
give me 1 week for it, right? I'll try to find a solution on my own for it.
Sure, Norman.
All right. So for today, how about we start with the poker percent game we did last time for Multiway?
Sounds good.
Do you want me to send a link for it?
Yes, please. If I don't find any solution, I might send you my hands of this week on Sunday, for example, and you can take a look at 1 or 2 tournaments that you find interesting, and then we can talk about the hands you select or you want to talk about.
Yes.
Would that be possible?
Yes, actually, a lot of students do that. Yes, a lot of students prefer it that way.
It's just a solution until I find a solution, and I can again mark hands and do all the work on my own. But until then, it would be nice.
Yeah, so I have 2 recommendations you can try. One is the folder manager. The other one is to deinstall the post SQL and try to get a way older version for it. Like maybe I have a recommendation for the version to get for it.
I can ask ChatGPT. I think he will give me a link for an older version.
Yeah, one moment. Yeah, I think the current version is something like 17.
And that's correct, yeah.
And I think what worked for me was version 11, something like version 11 or 10, I think should be good.
Yeah, that's a very old version then.
This, unfortunately, as Poker Tracker is how it is. It's not, I don't want to say anything bad, but it's like this, unfortunately. And
Okay.
You know what I've noticed for Poker Tracker? It's, I think, my computer's CPU, so the processor, and I have to sometimes do like analysis for like export hands in Poker Tracker, where I'm exporting like tens of thousands of hands, sometimes even more. And what I found there is it sort of crashes the program when my CPU is at 30%, and then I can't do anything on my computer, but Poker Tracker still keeps on working, and then it does uncrash itself, and something like 5 minutes later, it's completed the task, but I can't do anything meanwhile. And also when I see that my CPU is used only for 30%, so it's like it doesn't use the whole computer power as it could, right? So that's another issue with that program, that its computer could do more, but the program itself doesn't know how to use more resources or something something like that. So yeah, it's been a struggle really, but it is how it is.
And you are paying customer.
Yeah, well, Poker Tracker is very easy, right? It's just a one-time payment. So yeah, I think I have Poker Tracker for more than 10 years now.
Okay, let's hope we find a solution as soon as possible.
All right. Did you open the link?
Yeah, I did, but I didn't share. I'm already looking at it, but I didn't share. So let me do it.
Are you looking forward to the $2 sit and goes?
Yeah, if I manage, yeah, I will do it. I hope also, I have also issues with the casino I use to play poker. I have issues also with that. And I hope that they will also disappear when I upgrade to a newer computer.
Are there alternative options in Switzerland to play?
Yeah, but none with odds calculator.
But you're already getting so good with the odds calculator, no?
I like to have the odds calculator. I don't want to get rid of it because I would feel so insecure if I can't see how much odds are.
Okay.
Can you see it now?
I can see it now, right? So let's go back to the 4 players we did last time. For pre-flop is fine to start with. And this time, how about you lead the way here? So just go about how you would do this and what would you guess, and then we'll discuss it.
Well, we have to go for 25% because apparently we have 25% since we are facing 3 opponents. And now I have to see how better the other hands are than I am. And king is better. 7-7 should be better, slightly better. And Jack-Jack should also have an advantage. So this should be the worst hand on the board. I know that I can make a straight. I know also that I can make a flush. But if I make an ace, I wouldn't win. If I make a 10, I wouldn't win. So my only way of winning is making a flush or a straight. And the thing is, if I make a straight, how can I be sure that ace-king doesn't make a straight? So I don't know. It doesn't.
What cards do you need?
For straight, I need a jack, a queen, a king.
What's the issue with that, seeing the opponent's cards?
That 2 jacks are already out and that a king is also already out.
Right. Tough to make straights if already 3 key cards for your straight have been dealt out. How's your flush doing? There usually is like 13 for each suit, so there should be 11 spades in the deck. But in this case, how's the situation with that?
Yeah, there are already 2 spades out, so there are only 9 spades left.
Yeah. So really it's tough, right? We could also win by making 2 pair, both ace and a 10, or 3 10s. So we still have some opportunities, but yes, you're right what you said, that it looks like our hand is in a disadvantage against the opponents, and it's a pretty big one, right? As there isn't a one, we're not gonna win on one good card like a 10 or an ace, or we need we need to make a really big hand here to win it. So what should that mean for our winning percent of 25?
That it should be much lower.
It should be much lower. So usually here I wouldn't go more than 10% up or down, but this hand is really can't get much worse than this, right? So where would you put your guess here?
Maybe 12%.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. That's a pretty good guess here.
Okay, I will guess. It's
All
even
right,
lower than that.
2 to 5% away. So have to go a little lower here.
Let's try 10.
Yeah. So we were 2% off 10%. So actually this went quite well. And it's, ace 10 suited in usual terms. It's one of the better hands you get dealt. But this shows here that there are times when ace 10 really struggles. Now, if you see the other hands' winning percentages, is there anything surprising in those?
Yeah, it's surprising how jacks is much better than ace kings.
Yeah, right. Usually they would be 55, 40, but in this case, ace king is not 45. It's way lower than that. So what's working as a disadvantage for ace king here?
That I have already an ace.
Yes, it's right. So usually they would have 3 aces to hit. Now there's only 2. Also off-suited. And also ace-king is a hand that makes straights, but has the same issue your hand had here, that if they have 2 jacks, tough to make a straight now for ace-king. So, and also some of the power of ace-king is goes to other hands, right? Just like if it's jacks against ace king, jacks would be 55%. Here it's 44. So jacks loses a bit of its power to sevens and ace 10. And an ace king has that same effect also. So that they still could hit an ace, but a 7 rolls off, or you hit a 2 pair with ace 10. So all the hands take a bit of a hit here. Jacks is doing quite well here. Also, if you notice, Jacks has 2 flush draws here. Very small detail, but there's 1 diamond and Jacks has it. And there's 2 clubs, but Jacks has the higher club, 7 has the lower club. So even Jacks has this small thing going for it, which is not a big flush draw, right? If you have just one of the cards, but it's quite nice that there's no diamonds. No player has it. Okay, let's do one more for pre-flop. Let's see if we can get a lower card one. These were all very nice hands here. Okay, we didn't get lower cards, but we get an interesting one here. And yeah, I think that's a good one to do.
So we can make a flush with a diamond, and if not everybody has higher cards than we do, so we cannot win
We
with it.
win with just one pair.
Yeah, we could.
Does someone else share any cards we're holding? Does someone else have a 10 or an 8?
No, they don't.
So if you compare it to the last hand where we had ace 10s, does this one look more or less favorable?
Well, last time, how much did we have? 10%?
10%, yes.
So maybe this time we have a little more.
Yeah, I like this scenario way more, right? We also, 10-8 has a few ways to make a straight. Do you know which cards would make us the
8, 10, Jack, Queen, King.
Yeah, what you said would be King, Queen, Jack, 10-8, but that wouldn't be a straight.
10, 9.
Yeah, what would be
Our highest card.
Yeah, when we have a straight?
Well, if we start with a 10, we could go up to an ace.
That is true. That would actually be the highest straight, from ace to 10, when we only use one of our cards. Now that straight is very tough to do because we would need which cards for it?
A lot of high cards are already out.
Yeah, we would need ace, king, queen, jack, and all of them are out in some parts. So that's a tough straight to do. Then what would be the next straight? That would be if not the ace high straight, the next straight is what?
Well, we could make a straight from a 9 to a king.
Yes, from a 9 to a king, exactly. So again, similar, king, queen, jack are out there, but a 9 is not out there. But we could make way more straights with that. So if not the king high straight, what's the next high straight?
Well, then 8 and a queen.
8 and a queen, very good. And that would be the first straight where we use both of our cards. And we would also need a queen, a jack, a 9. That's also tough to do because queen and jack is out there. So that would be the highest straight we could make by using both of our cards is the queen high straight. Now next straight is when we use cards wrapped around our hand. So we have one higher card, one lower, and one middling card. What's that straight?
A 7 and a jack.
7 and a jack, exactly. And also the middling card, 9, would be used there. And if you think about a straight like that, how many of those straight cards you already see distributed out to the other players?
I see the jack being distributed
Only
out.
one jack, but no 9s, no 7s. So that middling straight with 2 of our cards, that's a pretty good chunk for us to make. Now there's also the lower straight with 2 of our cards. What cards would you need for that?
Yeah, the lowest straight. Now we did the 7 to a jack. And lower than that would be the 6 to a 10.
Yes, exactly. And that would be the lowest straight we can do using 2 of our cards, both a 10 and an 8. And that straight, there's no 6 out there, no 7, no 9. So, and then afterwards, we could also make some straights using only an 8, right? So
Yeah.
it could be just some lower cards and an 8, and we wouldn't use our 10, right?
Yeah.
Like a 7, 6, 5, 4, and then we can use our 8. So 10, 8, what I'm trying to point out, is a very potent hand to make straights. It's a better hand to make straights than something like ace king. It can make high straights, middle straights, lower straights. So overall, our 10H is in a much better situation here than the ace 10 was. So where would you place your guess?
Well, all that's nice. But the thing is, if any card higher than a 10 comes, so if a jack, a queen, a king, and an ace comes, somebody else will win. And they only need one of those cards to win. So it is easier to make one pair than to make a straight. So I think our chances are still quite low.
But here's the thing, how often does that higher card come? Because if it comes half the time, well, then the other half it wouldn't come, right? If it comes, even if it comes 70%, that means 30% there won't be ace, king, queen, or a jack on it.
Yeah, but we would still not win. They also, ace, king could win even without making a pair.
That's true. If the board will be just 2 and a 5 and a 6 and some low cards, then ace, king would win, right? So ace, king is in a pretty good scenario here. But I think you will be surprised how well 10-8 does here. But what would your guess be here?
Well, if you say it like this, I will have to give it more, but how much can I give it? I think 20% would be a lot. I would go maybe for 18% maximum.
Right. It will be more than that, but go with that and let's see how far it will be. Yeah, you see we're more than 5% off here. So it's a really powerful hand to make pairs, straights, all that stuff. Yeah, more than 5. So you have to guess at least 24. Okay. I think it's even bigger than this, but we can go with this. I think we're getting closer. Okay, now we're still more than 5% away, right? How magical is this? So it's going to be at least 30 here. All right, and now we're just 1% away. So actually, as we see here, our hand is in second place. Ace king is still first, but the king, queen, queen, jack, they're really struggling to win this pot. So, and because we have a clean way to make a flush, we have so many straight draws, and if we hit a 10 or an 8, then we have good chances also. Then overall, we're looking pretty strong here. So you see multi-way, it can really be a big difference based on the cards the opponents are holding. So now let's go to the flop now.
Yeah, just a small question.
Yeah.
How come that queen jack offsuit is worse than king queen suited? Because king queen suited can make a straight. Yeah, that's why it wins, because he can make a straight.
A flush, you mean? Yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry, a flush. Yeah, he can make a flush. Because if not, the jack would be good because they don't. It's the only jack, so a jack would win if a jack comes, but a queen would not win. But that's also the case. Yeah, then. With a queen, the higher card would win, so it would be king, queen offsuit, king, queen suited. Yeah, I get it.
But
yeah,
you know, there's a good thing here that how many jacks are in the deck and how many queens?
There are 2 queens and just 1 jack.
How many jacks?
In the deck, I left 3 and only 2 queens.
3 jacks, 2 queens. So in that way, it favors queen jack, right? Because there's more jacks than there's queens. But what really is the disadvantage for queen jack here is it has no way to make a flush. Because if you look at the queen of hearts, if there's a board with many hearts, who would win?
King of it.
And if there's a board with many spades, queen jack also has a spade, who would win then?
King, queen, spades.
King, queen, exactly. So queen jack really has very bad suits for their cards here, and also the jack is the lower card, so that's even there are 3 jacks, if there's 1 ace, 1 king, or all the other things that can happen. So but they're, I mean, 14, 17, they're not very different, but I think the difference is mostly due to the flush capability of king, queen here. Okay, now let's go to the flop. Last time we went to the turn, but the flop really will be the toughest. I mean, pre-flop maybe you say also tough, but the flop can be very tough with these ones. So let's try a 4-way flop scenario.
So a flush is very strong. 2 suited cards are very strong. especially if nobody else has those cards, or if and nobody else has that suit, then it's very strong. Okay, now you want me to go for, what did you say, flop turn?
To the flop, yes.
So this time we have a very good hand. We have an ace-10 suited, but we are losing against the flush. So it's a hopeless situation. We cannot win this.
It's hopeless, so it's 0, you say.
Yeah, how are we going to win?
We make something like a full house or a 4 of a kind to beat the flush.
No, I don't think we can make a full house.
Yeah. Can we make a...
We need 3 more cards for that. We won't get 3 more cards, so we cannot.
Well, what if we get a king and a queen?
Where's the jack? Yeah, it's on the board. Okay, yeah. Then we can make a straight, yeah.
But it was a trick question. We make a straight, we still lose to a flush, right?
Yeah.
So I said the flop ones are difficult, but actually this one is maybe the easiest, right? That we have almost, yeah.
So it's 0%.
Now the last thing we have to think through here, is there a way it will be a split pot? Is there a way we also make a flush? We will get the same flush as 10-4. Let's say 2 high flush cards come on the board. Something like a king or a queen or something like that. So everyone would have a flush that's on the board. But who would win the pot? Would it be a split pot?
No, I think in that case we would win because we have the highest card.
So we would have to use our flush cards, but all our flush cards would be on the board, right? So our ace wouldn't matter because that wouldn't be one of the flush cards. So our flush could be, if the board has a king and a queen for flush cards, our flush would be king, queen, jack, 6-2 flush. And the player with ace 6, they would have the same flush, king, queen, jack, 6-2. Player jack 9 would also have the same flush, king, queen, jack, 6-2. But what flush would 10-4 have if the king, queen flush cards come on the board?
We would still have 2, 6, jack, king, queen as a flush tag.
So what helps a lot with this is if you always, with the straights, with the flushes, with even pairs, start counting from the highest card. So if a king and a queen is on the board for a flush, what would his 5 highest cards be? King, queen, what would be next?
King, queen, jack, 10, 6.
Perfect. Yes, he would have a flush of king, queen, jack, 10, 6. But our flush would be king, queen, jack, 6-2. So which flush would be better in that spot?
His flush would be better.
Exactly. So even if we make a flush here, his 10 would still matter and he would still have a higher flush. So I think you will be able to guess this 100% correct here.
Yeah, so it's 0%.
Yeah, I think it will be that. I would be surprised if it's something different. Perfect. Now, if you look at the chances for other players, can you explain why they have the percentages they do?
Well, for 10-4 suited, we just talked about. It's because he wins with his 10 in case of a flush. Now, why has ace 6 suited 1% chance of winning? I do not know.
Okay, first thing, what beats a flush?
A full house.
What beats a full house?
A wild straight. Wild straight.
Yeah, that's true. The royal flush is there and also the straight flush. But there's one more thing that's weaker than straight flush, but stronger than full house. It's called the 4 of a kind, okay?
Okay, he has 2 6s. If 2 more 6s comes, he makes a 4, and the 4 of a kind beats a flush. Is that correct?
That is true. He would win on a 4 of a kind. Now, can he also make a full house? What would he need for a full house?
He would need 2 more aces.
Exactly, 2 more aces. How many aces left in the deck?
2 aces.
Yes, so it's possible, right? 2 aces in the deck. If both of them come, he has a full house. 2 6s in the deck. If both of them come, he has a full house. And actually, there's one more way here. If he gets a 6 and an ace. So 1 6, 1 ace. What would that be?
It would be a full house.
Would also be a full house. Now, if we go to Jack 9, their percent is even higher, 3%. So what can Jack 9 do?
Well, Jack has already a Jack, so that's a little better than having a 6. But he still needs to make a full house. And the thing is, with a full house, there are no 9s, so he has a little more chances of making a full house, because he can make Jack, Jack, and then 3 9s. No, can he make 3 9s? No, he cannot make 3 9s. Yeah, he can make 3 9s and 2 jacks. Yes, he can.
4 of a kind.
He can make 4 jacks.
Okay, here's another one. What if the board comes a 2 and a 2? 2 more 2s come on the board. What would happen then?
He would have 2 pairs.
The turn is a 2, river is a 2.
Okay, now then he would have a full house.
Okay, what would a6 have with the same cards?
He would also have a full house. Jack 9 is higher than 6, so I think that Jack 9 will.
Yes, the full house with 2 jacks and 3 2s would beat the full house with 2 6s and 3 2s. That's correct. Last question on this. What if the turn and river is a 6 and a jack?
A 6 and a jack. I think it doesn't matter. I think in both cases, 10-4 offsuit would win because he has a flush. I don't think they make a full house in that case.
Well, if a jack comes, then the last villain would have 3 jacks. And if a 6 comes, then there's also a pair of 6s on the board. So 6, yeah?
You have jack 6 and you want one more jack and a 6 for the turn and the river?
Yes, let's say turn, river are jack and a 6 in whatever order.
It makes 3 of a kind, but 3 of a kind doesn't beat a flush, so I don't think it can win.
But it wouldn't just make 3 of a kind. Because, yes, you would have 3 of a kind of what?
3 of a kind of a jack and 3 of a kind of a 6.
Okay, but there's also would be a 6 on the board, and there's already 1 6 on the board. So there's also would be the pair of 6s and the 3 of a kind for jacks, right?
Okay, in this case, Jack 9 makes full house.
Okay, what would a6 make if a jack and a 6 comes?
Only a 3 of a kind.
What 3 of a kind?
6, 6, 6.
Okay, but there would be how many jacks on the board if a jack and a 6 comes?
2 jacks.
So there would be also a pair on the board and 3 6s for it. So that would also be called what?
Full house.
But which full house would win? 3 jacks and 2 6s, or 3 6s and 2 jacks?
2 jacks and 3 6s.
No, 3 jacks and 2 6s. So the higher, the one which has a stronger 3 of a kind in a full house. So 3 jacks and 2 6s is better than 2 jacks and 3 6s.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's the difference why one villain has 1%, the other one has 3. But it's a little confusing, but yeah, let's do another flop one. But yeah, okay, wow, now we get a nice hand here. So pre-flop, we should start at 25%, but on the flop, I really recommend that you start from either 0 or 100. So one hand at this moment is the strongest. So what hand at this moment has the best of it?
I think we do.
Which hand? We do, right?
Yeah.
So let's start with the 100% here. And now exercise. We have to do outs for every player, find their win percent, and then start subtracting that from ours. And my recommendation would be, let's start with the player here who seems to have the most outs against us. So who could that be?
I think it is 7-6 suited.
Very good. How many outs do they have against us?
Maybe they have more than 9 outs.
What makes you think like this?
Well, normally if you have a flush draw, but I think you only need 3 diamonds for that, then you have 9 outs. And here he already has 4 diamonds. So I think he has more outs.
You're actually incorrect. If you have 3 diamonds, that's called a backdoor flush draw. But with him with 4, that's a normal flush draw. And as there's 13 diamonds, there's 9 left in the deck. So he does have 9 outs. But there is one bonus thing for his flush, and it has to do with one else has. So what's extra nice about his flush draw?
Nobody else has a diamond.
Nobody else has a diamond. Now, it's very hard to quantify how much that's worth. But for this here, as we're now, let's add an extra out for him for that reason, that he already knows that those 6 cards we don't have. So if you now make it into a percentage, reduce that from our aces chance. So he has 10 outs. It's okay. But by the river, what number do you have to multiply it?
By 4.
By 4. So as a winning percentage, that would be what?
Would be 60.
And for him, it would be what?
No, it would be 40. For him, it would be...
Yes,
yeah.
40 for him. So that
for us,
that
it would be
takes us
60.
down to what?
to 60.
Yes, good, good. Okay. Now take one of the next players, whichever one here you like more, whichever one you think has a better draw. They're close. I mean, they're kind of close here, what they have.
Maybe queen 2 has an advantage because queen is a higher card than a jack.
Okay, and queen also has what at this moment?
It has a pair, but it doesn't matter.
Okay, but even a pair can be a draw because a pair can become more, right? A pair can become two pair. A pair can become three of a kind. So how many outs does queen 2 have?
How many outs? So there are 2 more queens left. So that makes 2 outs. Is that correct?
Okay, what about the twos? Would a 2 help queen 2?
Yeah, it would. So there are 3 twos left. So in total, it makes 5 outs.
Okay, and by the river, how often would queen 10 then make something better than aces?
20%.
Okay, so what to do now with that 20%?
Abstract it from 60.
But before you do, go back to 60. We made a small error, so please go back to 60. So we forgot about one detail here. If we think of the outs for queen and a 2, are some of those also helpful for 7-6?
For 7-6, maybe if you can make a straight 7-6.
No. The 7-6 was going for a flush, right? The diamonds here.
I don't see how the 5 out of queen 2 impact the 7-6 suited
Yes, so
flush draw.
here's a question. Can you name me what suits for a queen are left in the deck? What suits are those queens?
Oh, yeah, I understand. So if 2 comes and it's a diamond, it wouldn't be good. And if a 2 comes and it's a queen, it wouldn't be good also. So we have to take those 2 out.
So how many outs would it leave?
3 outs.
3 times what percent by the river?
4. So 12 outs.
12%, right? 3 times 4, 12. Yes, exactly. Okay, and last one here. Almost done with this tough exercise. What can Jack 3 do? They have absolutely no pair, nothing at this point. But they do have one draw that's pretty good. What draw? It's your favorite draw.
I don't think they have any draws. They cannot make a straight and they cannot make a flush. Because for a straight, they would need an ace, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5, which would require 4 cards. And there are only 2 cards coming.
Right. You're looking at a 3, but look at their other card.
Okay, they can make a straight with a jack.
What do they need for that straight?
A jack, they would need an ace.
Can they use the 9 somehow on the board?
Yes, if a 10 comes, so 9, 10, jack, queen, king. So the only card is missing is 10.
They only need one card, just a 10, and suddenly they have a straight. So now the question, how many outs would the 10 be for?
There are 4 10s left, so 4 times 4 makes 16.
Okay, now just like we thought about with queen 2, what's the danger of one of his 10s?
If one of his 10s is a diamond, it wouldn't be good because 7-6 would win.
Exactly, so that leaves how many outs?
That leaves 3 outs.
Yes. On the other side of it, no one has a 10 at this moment, right? So that also improves his outs a little bit. So, in this case, in some ways it would be more principled to go with 3 outs, but either's fine here. So give him also that win percent here.
So 3 times 4 makes again 12. So let's go down 10 and 2 more.
All right. Now, before we guess here, you see everyone has quite crappy hands here. Does it feel right that our aces only has 36%, or it feels wrong?
Well, it doesn't look great that ace has only 36%, but we are facing 3 opponents.
And all of them have some outs, right? Even if not many, all of them have some outs.
Yeah, so maybe we should pump it up to 40%.
Okay, you think we gave them too much chances, that our aces is still more. That feels right to you, right? So, well, it's your guess here. So go with will you go with math or will you go with what feels right?
I will go with math.
All right, then guess with this. Let's see how close we are.
Would you go with math or would you go pump it up?
Yeah, it's a philosophical question, right? I would say if I have a strong inner sense that the math is wrong, then I would go with my instinct. But if I don't really, how often have you done an exercise like this before? You don't really have I wouldn't have much of a reason to feel otherwise for it to be 40 or 50 or 30 or so. So if I don't have a strong intuition developed on this or a lot of experience doing similar exercises, then for me in this case, I don't have a strong reason to guess higher or lower than what the math says. Maybe your intuition is right. Maybe it will be closer to 40. We'll see in a moment.
So you would also go with math?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good guess here. In general, the flop ones, even for me, it's easier to get more wrong. But I think how we went through it, I would be quite happy with this guess, yes. Okay, and we're 2 to 5% away. So it's either 38 or 41, somewhere between that.
So my 40% would have been a better guess.
We don't know that yet. If it's going to be, we'll see, but you can get your 40 now.
No, but with the answer now, since it's 2 to 5%, yeah, 2 maybe.
Yeah, if it's 38, then it would have been exactly the middle. But if it's 39, 40 or 41, then it would have been better one. That's true. So make your next guess here. But I would already, for flop, for us to be less than 5% away, or we'll see what, okay, you guessed the maximum, the 40. What will you go with? Yeah, I'm not surprised you want to guess 40. We'll see. Wow. How nice is that? That your intuition, why do you even know the math, right? You just knew it, right? You could have just said 40 and we could have skipped all the outs and getting to that 36%, right? So
I was just like,
but either way, we were quite close. And if you look at the complexity of this, there's 4 hands. We're only on the flop, so many draws and no odds calculator here. And to get to this 36 or 40, what you said, that's, I think, all very good.
Yeah, but I find it quite a useful skill to see how much chances you have by doing something. That's quite a useful skill, And we are not perfect. We still make mistakes. But we are much better than most people because most people have no idea how much chances. They play forever the lotto, but they never ask themselves how much chances they have to win,
Very good. Now one question for you.
They take a position in the market if they're courageous, but they also don't ask themselves how much chances they have to win or what will happen if it goes wrong and what will they do if price moves against them. They just don't go through it, But it's a great skill to know how much chances you have and how you should act on them. It's a very useful skill. And poker is very good for teaching you that.
I have a very practical poker-related thought regarding this. Most people, let's say they raise aces pre-flop and 3 players call, these same 3 players. And you have a note that they're loose players, so they have crappy hands, like they do here, right? One has queen 2, one has 7-6, one has jack 3. Board comes down king, queen 9. Would most people still feel happy with their aces to play a big pot? Maybe they would, right? But now, based on after doing this exercise, should you be cautious on king, queen 9 if you have 2 aces? Is there a reason to be cautious?
Yes, because you're facing 4 people. That's why you don't have more than 50% chance of winning. But look, I had pocket kings and I made a full house with pocket kings. So that's a very strong hand, And I looked at the board and I thought the only way the guy could win is if he also makes a full house with an ace. That's the only way he could win. Now that was possible, but I thought the chances are so low, man. So I went for it. You know what? He made a full house with ace and I lost.
Yeah, my first comment on this is, if you go for it, sometimes what can happen is everything else would fold and that rare time when they have an ace will call. So every time you go for it, you also have to ask yourself, well, what can continue that's not an ace? Even if the ace is low chance, you still have to find something that would continue there. Maybe in that scenario, they could continue with 3 of a kind or something. So, you didn't necessarily make a mistake. It's a cooler, how it's called in poker, when 2 players make extremely strong hands and it's it's like aces versus kings, or one has full house, the other has another full house. But in general there, if you go all in, it's not only enough that it's very few hands that are weaker than yours. You also, or sorry, it's not enough that there's very few hands that beat your hand. You also need a weaker hand to call your bet, right? So in that scenario, you'd have to ask yourself, well, okay, ace is unlikely, but if he doesn't have an ace, what else will come along with my kings, right? So that's often a big question, because if nothing else comes along, then sometimes he either folds and you don't win extra, or he calls every 10th time when he does have that rare ace full house.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. But the thing is, I was going for half pot and half pot and half pot, and on the river, the pot, it was a lot, and the pot was already big, and then I went for half pot again, and then he went all in. But the difference was small because we didn't have that much big blinds left. So anyways, and the thing is, I had such a great hand, full house with a king. So I thought, man, the only way of beating me is if he has that ace. And I thought I had to take the risk, because sometimes you have very bad players and they do it with just 2 pairs, or maybe they make 3 of a kind, or I don't know what. Or maybe sometimes you also have somebody who has just 1 ace and he still thinks he can win, because there's a chance you can win with an ace. So there was a good chance that he would not beat me with a full house, but he did.
I would say, if...
Unfortunately, we cannot look at the hand, because since I have issues with my poker tracker, I can't. But next time I will mark such when I'm able to do it again, and then we can talk about it more in depth.
Yes. But in general, one thing poker players sometimes say themselves to, relieve themselves or not feel bad, is they ask themselves this: if the cards are reversed in that scenario, will the other player also lose all their chips with their pocket kings? And if the answer is yes, then in some sense, that scenario, both players, it will play out. Either it just depends on the card and there's no skill difference there, right? So one day, few months or a year from now, you will have a full house with an ace, he will have with kings, and then he will lose and you will win. So these sorts of scenarios tend to balance themselves out.
Yeah, but you do agree that it's very hard to fold a full house. It's very hard, especially since there's an ace on the deck and you think, okay, maybe he only has 1 ace and that's why he keeps betting. So it's very hard to fold a full house. I'm sure you agree.
I agree with that. And I think if you never fold a full house, you will still do well in poker, right? But there's some scenarios you have to be extra careful. And one scenario would be, imagine there's 3 of the same card on the board. You choose. Tell me a card, whatever card you like.
Well, let's go for the king.
Okay, let's say there's 3 kings on the board, and let's give you the pocket pair that's very low. So let's give you pocket 2s, for example. Would you have a full house?
Yeah, I would.
You would have a full house, 3 kings, and the pocket 2s are hold. But what would be the danger there?
That if he has any other pair, he would beat me.
Any other pocket pair, pocket 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s, jacks, queens, aces, and also any king would be 4 of a kind, right? Ace, king, king, queen, king, jack, king, 10, king, 9, king, 8, whatever. So there's some specific scenarios. That's one of them. If there's 3 of the same card on the board, that there's more reason to be cautious. But there are rare occasions. In general, a full house, you don't make a full house every day. So that's unfortunate if a full house loses. That's true.
Okay, Norman. 4 of a kind beats a full house. We agree on that.
Yes.
Okay, that's perfect.
What's
Now we
the
have...
strongest hand you made? What do you think? Have you made a 4 of a kind?
In my life, yes, I did.
Have you made a straight flush? So it's both a straight and a flush with the same cards.
Not sure.
Yeah. And then the best hand is a special straight flush, which is called the royal flush, when it's ace to 10, all in a straight and also all the same suit. And that hand is 1 in a million hands that it would happen. So that's maybe a couple times a lifetime for a poker player. Depends how much hands they play, but yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, sounds great. We did 1 hour and 20 minutes. Do we call it a day, Norman?
I think we'll call it a day for today. I have to, and I'm gonna meet up with my sister and listen to some poetry. I think that's what my sister had planned for us.
Okay. Did she write the poetry or is she reading some poetry?
Neither really. Or it's like an event, right? So we're gonna go to, what is it like? It's not a club. It's not a pub. It's a place, right, where people meet up. I think they serve some, maybe like a cafe, something like that. And then there will be people who read poetry there. Maybe there's a competition. I will know better in half an hour, but something like that.
Yeah. And what is the language they will use?
Not sure, but I think most likely it will be Estonian.
Okay. Well, it sounds great of that kind of activities which stimulate your brain and your soul. So I think it's a good thing. I hope that there's some good poetry, something you enjoy and something that has some meaning. Let me know how it goes next time, how it went.
I will do that. I'll also try again with Amazon stuff, and then you try out either the older version for PostgreSQL, that version 11 I think worked for me, or try out the older manager link I sent. And then if not, then send me the hands on Sunday so we can review them together next.
I'll try to do all that, and I hope...
Yeah, today was a tough lesson, a lot of math and...
No, I find it very interesting. Actually, it's a very good thing for me to talk over those hands and calculate the outs and so on and get all your questions. And you're just perfect because you have a lot of patience and you keep asking the good questions that I have to answer. So you are great to have as a teacher, Norman. Thanks a lot. And enjoy your afternoon. Say hello to your sister for me. I hope I meet her once. Bye-bye.
We'll hope so.